Happy New Year, everybody. I hope this year brings you guys good news about your CELPIP exams and immigration. CELPIP is not a great topic to talk about during New Year's, not fun. However, January is always the busiest month of the year for us because a lot of you try to apply for immigration and your exam and get rid of that as part of your new goals, and we're here to support you throughout this journey. Now, what you have to do this year is based on what might happen in the upcoming exams and the pattern of mistakes that have cost valuable marks to candidates last year. So implement these strategies. We're going to discuss all 4 modules in a lot of detail. Once you implement these, you should be relaxed that you are on the right track towards achieving a good score. Let's start with writing. You got 3 main tips here, and I'm talking about grammar rules. You guys are making the most amount of mistakes in grammar. And even if you are not, even if you're making 2 to 3 major grammar mistakes, that can risk a CLB 9. So even one should not be considered. You got to be perfect in grammar. And now we have a lot of tools to help you for free. The first one is using the software called Grammarly. When you type anything there, Grammarly will point out the mistakes and you will get some explanations there. The only issue with the software I have is, according to me, it is 70% accurate. It doesn't understand 30% of the context from what I have seen generally. The second option is sending us your writing. We check your writing for free at HZad Education. Our email is in the description. No strings attached. Send it to us. We deliver the writing to you. We have volume to manage it, so we offer that as part of our free services. The third thing, which is important for you, is self-evaluation. This is something you should do after doing the first 2 steps. And this is where you get to understand what you should do. Your mind starts thinking accurately about writing and grammar. When you finish your writing, you want to proofread it. See the sentences and observe what sounds odd. You should be able to tell what sounds odd, research it, type it on Grammarly, and see if there's a mistake. At the point when you're able to be a good teacher to yourself, you will notice you're correcting your grammar mistakes much more often. And that's what you need to do to really get a hang of this. Plus, add revision. A lot of you do your writings. You will see your mistakes in Grammarly. You will see our feedback, and you don't look at it. Or if you look at it, you look at it once and then move on. The problem here is the same mistakes come up again because when you were revising, you were skimming through, or you thought, okay, this is how I'm supposed to write it. Perfect. I won't do it again. But your mind forgets. So when you revise, at least revise the same thing 3 to 4 times. If you want to spread it into 3 to 4 days or 3 to 4 weeks, at least touch on the same thing multiple times. And that's how you really commit those things to memory. Okay, there are more additional tips here for writing, which are again based on the patterns seen last year, some things that a lot of candidates thought we could ignore. And these things cost you only 2 to 3 minutes, but they are game changers. They are the difference when people score an 8 and when people score a 9 or 10. A lot of you are looking for a 9. When I get some emails, I attempted CELPIP, I got an 8 in writing, I got 9, 10 in everything else. What can I do? This, again, it looks like a big problem when you see the results because now you have to book the whole exam again. But during the exam time, you would ignore some very important things, but those things will lead you in the situation where you're stuck at 8 and now you have to do the whole exam again. These are just 2 to 3 minute rules. And these are brainstorming and proofreading. I'll tell you how to do it, but please do it because, again, it's very important. What you want to do when you see your task 1, task 2 questions, take 2 to 3 minutes, brainstorm. Think about the points you're supposed to write before writing and type those out in short form because you're going to delete them before you submit your writing. But at least on top you have in body 1, I'm going to write this and this. Body 2, I'm going to write this and this. If there's a body 3, this and this. That helps you maintain an accurate structure and the right accurate points that you will have at the start of the question. That's the time when you have read the question and at 100% capacity, your mind is thinking in accordance with the question. What happens later on when you start writing is you drift off. You think about something else, you're looking at the time, you're nervous, People forget the question. So it's important to brainstorm and at the start, write down the points at the start so you can just follow them without overthinking or thinking twice during writing. This in turn saves you time later on because you have already thought about your points. And then at the end, you want to spend 2 to 3 minutes proofreading. Some of you want to be the first person to leave the room and make an impression, but the ones who score the highest, they're the ones who are the last ones remaining in the room. Take all your time, take every last minute, and at least give proofreading 2 to 3 minutes of your time. A lot of you are able to go up by 1 to 2 points just by proofreading because at the end, you see your grammar mistakes, your task response mistakes, even a salutation. If you missed it, you can lose 1 point. So make sure you make time for proofreading. The next thing is speaking. And here, the biggest lesson I want to tell you guys, based on our experience last year, because this was something I kept repeating in all my feedback that I was sending over emails, that I was telling our teachers when we were dealing with students. Copy native speakers, because what you are missing is the natural tone, the pauses, and the tone change. When you watch TV shows, movies, or you can intentionally put interviews by native speakers and or your favorite celebrities, so you're interested in it, and listen to them and see how they talk. What is the natural tone? What is the cadence? What is the emphasis, fluctuation in the volume? Make sure to speak like that. It is clear. It's going to give you more confidence. It's going to be more expressive and will give you marks for tone. The other thing is you want to pause. Pause between your sentences and pause when you change points. Helps you relax. Helps the examiner understand that now you're switching from one point to another, which is important for task response as well. And most importantly, it helps you maintain a good tone, which again has marks. Also, when we talk about tone change, there are just 2 major places where this happens. It should happen naturally, but if you want to really learn the 2 places, the first place is when you change the sentence. So let's say I'm saying 2 sentences. I would like the development of our city. I think it is amazing. Did you notice what happened? Every time I started the sentence, my volume was up, and then slowly towards the end, it went down. Let me do that again. I want a lot of good development for our city. I think it's an amazing idea. So the volume increases when you change the sentence or the point. The second time this happens is when you're using adjectives. So you look amazing. This food is delicious. I had a terrible experience at the mall. Every time there's this adjective, you emphasize, you increase your volume, and that helps you give a tone change, which is important for your marks. And these are the things that are often ignored in CELPIP speaking. Make sure you're not robotic. Most of you are. Trust me, I do a lot of feedback and I keep telling people to be natural. And a warning here is don't ignore the timing in speaking. Consider this tip number 4 for speaking. A lot of you miss time towards the end. When time is running out, make sure you're finished with all your conclusion. Leave a 5-second buffer towards the end. If you finish at 55 seconds for the 60-second questions, it's fine. That's okay. If you want to speak more, you could add one tiny little phrase or sentence, but always give yourself the room. Don't attempt to finish at 60 seconds exactly. I'll guarantee you, you will miss it. Now let's talk about reading. Reading haunted a lot of people last year. So what you want to look for in reading are 3 main tips. One is concepts, and we'll talk about all these properly in detail. We'll cover the actual content here. When you are looking at the questions, then you go to the passage, look for answers. In the questions, don't just look at the keywords alone. Keywords are important, but also look at the concept. Are they asking for an idea, for example? If they're talking about building dams, building is a keyword, dams is obviously a keyword. But what is the concept? The concept is development. Now, if you go to the passage, maybe they're going to talk about development, growth, infrastructure, and when you see those, you will be able to match them because you saw the concept. Very similar to that is the word synonyms. Now, something like dams will not have synonyms. Names, dates, or very fixed titles will not have synonyms. So that's our advantage. But again, in this case, when I was talking about building dams, building is an English word. It can have synonyms like developing or growing. And you want to look for those as well. Lastly, of course, the exact keywords. Sometimes if you're lucky, you will get the exact same thing, building dams. So don't ignore that. That's also a good thing to look for. You can't ignore the keywords. But more importantly, keywords are the ones that cannot change. Names, dates, addresses, titles, those would be some important keywords. But now let's put this into actual practice. Let's say we're talking about part 3, where you have a list of questions, you have to match them with the passage and the paragraphs. Let's assume you have these 3 questions that you're looking at. How should you read them? The first one says the municipality was very inefficient and had a tone of indifference. Okay, inefficient? I could say it's not working well, it's not systematic, it has a bad approach, it is, or the municipality is corrupt, because we're talking about municipality, so even corruption could go there, or inefficient, again, the keyword itself. Then a tone of indifference, I could say they're careless, they lack care, they lack attention, or they're reckless. And the concept also here is the government or the municipality is corrupt or just wants votes. Even they can say that, and that would relate to this idea. And that's good enough. With those ideas, now if there is any part of the passage that talks about this in any paraphrased version, I'll find it and I'll match it. Similarly, this one, the dams helped the citizens. Very small, but again, it could be said in so many different ways. The hydroelectric power was the reason for the rejuvenation of the area. They might say it in those words, completely different from what you see written here. However, if you see something like this, 1990, date, Bob Ackman, name, consider yourself lucky, because those keywords will be found in the passage, so you don't have to paraphrase everything. Now let's talk about listening, and I'm just going to talk about one thing, one very important thing that you should not ignore. Don't ignore this. The most important strategy, only one strategy, is memory. And you can improve this with YouTube practice. I'll tell you how. If you have done the CELPIP exam, you know the questions come after the audio. During the audio, you don't see the questions, so you're supposed to take notes. We have lots of videos here on effective note-taking strategies. You can check our note-taking lessons and content on our channel. Note-taking is still the most important skill. If you have a lot of notes, you will know exactly what was said, and that'll help you in answering the questions, obviously. But last year, a lot of you ignored the memory part, and this year you should not ignore it or overlook it. You, as a human being, cannot write everything. With the speed at which the CELPIP listening plays, which is not too much, it is still faster than a normal human's speed of writing. Stop relying on notes alone. 80% reliance on notes is good, but you have to remember some of the things that you were unable to write down. Important things here are interpretation, how the tone was, were people positive, negative, and who were they who were positive, negative? How were they responding to each other? That's more of a tone thing. You don't even have to take notes on that. You should be able to get the idea from the overall speaking and any other important information that you were unable to write down. Okay, now what is important information? Because this could be a big game changer. Important information are things that are, first of all, very hard to remember, and second of all, that are objective. For example, the sales this year increased by 10%. Write that down, 10%, because if you try to remember that, you might forget the actual number, and the options might be 9%, 10%, 11%. You'll get confused. Write down the names, dates, or very specific guidelines like turn left, turn right, open the window and see the car with the VIN number. Those kinds of very specific instructions that can be forgotten, and they're very specific. Write those down. But things that are interpretive, like how was one person responding to the other, was she happy or sad, you don't have to write that. You would most likely understand that. And use those skills or those areas and commit them to memory. If you are using the right combination of memory and note-taking, you will really remember 100% of the transcript, which will ultimately help your marks. So guys, that's it. These are our strategies to improve our CELPIP scores this year. And if you are doing the exam this month, contact us. We'll help you out. We have the best courses and the most popular teachers for CELPIP in Canada. Until next time, take care.